Hello flutists, welcome back to the channel. In this video, I want to cover the topic of your resume when you send it in for an orchestral job specifically, and geared really for us freelance flute players. There's a handful of things that you really should not put on your resume that goes to be submitted in to be considered for an orchestra job. And this video is a continuation of a video I did about a year ago or so in mostly starting your very first resume as a freelancer. So I go into more detail about the resume in general, and I'll link that video in the description. So please check that out. But since I've done that video, I've come across, just in passing, people putting up on social media maybe like, oh, I revamped my resume, or I'm applying for this job, and they show what their resume looks like, and I just think, oh, nope, you're not going to get an invitation to the orchestra job because of a few things. The main thing is that your resume truly has to be one page. It always says one page resume when you're submitting a resume for an orchestra job. If it's one sentence longer on page 2, your resume is going to be tossed. If you feel you have so much you need to explain about yourself and you really need to go into 2 pages, it's going to be tossed. It's just not going to be looked at if it's 2 pages long. Really take that instruction seriously. One page only. The other main thing, which has lots of little examples, is just list your stuff. And by that I mean, don't go into detail that would require sentences. Like 2 or 3 sentences explaining yourself. And again, remember, I'm talking about submitting your resume specifically for an orchestra job. So with that in mind, if you, for example, being a freelancer, maybe you have some big project and you've created maybe a chamber music group that has a season, and you did all this stuff, and that is amazing. But in your resume, you don't go on and talk about the name of your chamber group and say what your mission statement is and say that you were when you founded it, with all this detail. All you would put for something like that is the name of your group, founder. That's it. You just list it. Period. The end of story. I know it's tempting to want to explain more as a freelancer, but you just can't. You're just listing things you've done. Also, I just saw this kind of recently. Don't list the pieces you played on when you were a sub somewhere. I've never seen that before, actually, but that for sure will get your resume tossed out of consideration. It looks weird. It just looks amateurish. So if you write that you were a sub for the Atlanta Symphony sub, flute 2 on Brahms Symphony 4, flute 3 on, blah, blah, blah. It's completely irrelevant what part you played. No one cares. No one wants to know. All you have to put is Atlanta Symphony Orchestra sub. That's it. That's all you can put. It might be even a situation where, like, you came into something, even a big orchestra, and you want to make it known, like you came into, I don't know, the Chicago Symphony, and you sight read a concert, and it was Afternoon of the Faun, or, it was some big deal, which is something that you do as a freelancer all the time. You cannot put on the resume, came in at last moment, with 0 rehearsal, and sight read the concert, did a great job. You cannot put any of that. You have to put Chicago Symphony Orchestra, sub. Also, don't mention in your resume, like if you subbed on a rehearsal versus a concert. Again, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And it just makes your resume look complicated and amateurish. So just for reference, here is just a part of my resume, the bulk of my resume, where I just have my experience listed. To submit this for an orchestra job, I can only put on my resume things that have an organization, Elgin Symphony, Milwaukee Ballet Orchestra, or like the name of a musical. I don't even know if it's on my resume right now, but I played Wicked. It has to have a title, an organization, something like that. You can't list just random gigs that you did, no matter how cool they were. I've played thousands of interesting and cool gigs, which gives me all kinds of experience. But there's no appropriate way to list that on my resume. It has to be like within Orchestra or some kind of way that has a title. Like I was a civilian sub that went on tour with the U.S. Air Force band. I don't think that's on my resume anymore, just because I've replaced it with other things. But because it has like an official organization, I can put all that down. And then it was called the something or other tour, Iowa tour, or somewhere in the Midwest. Anyway, I could put that there. But I also played, got called to do a big name job, a pickup orchestra in Chicago for some celebrity who's now in jail, so I won't mention his name. But it was a big time gig. I can't put that down there on my resume. I can't just put random gig played at the whatever steakhouse it was in Chicago, Flute 2. Like it just looks dumb. So, and you can't put like played 1,000+ random gigs as a freelancer. You can't do that either. So it's just the way it is. So you just have to list only things that have an organization. And again, like I said at the beginning of this particular topic, like you just list stuff. Don't explain yourself. Thinking back on the example I gave of if you came in last minute to play a concert without a rehearsal with the Chicago Symphony, I think it's the example I gave, and you can't say all the details about that. You just say Chicago Symphony sub. But on the plus side or the upside of that, I would say you can play one gig with some organization, and that counts. You put it on your resume. So some giant orchestra like Chicago Symphony or the London Phil or something, if you played fifth kazoo on some weird piece, that counts. Then you just put the name of that orchestra, sub. Okay, again, so please check out that other video if you're looking for more information on how to create your musician's resume to submit for an orchestra job. I will link that other video I did with a lot more detail in the description. But the what not to put on your resume, I think, is just as important, if not more important maybe, than what to put on there. And please hit subscribe. In this channel, I go over everything about the freelance world, with writing your resume, of course, to just stage etiquette, the do's and don'ts. And a lot of the things I cover is from my own experience. And also from my own experience, I have found that none of it's taught. You just sort of learn the hard way as you go. So from my experience, I'm hoping to share what I've learned with you. And good luck with writing your resume, and I hope you get into that to audition for that orchestra job that you want. Thanks for watching.